Alright, so this video is a follow-up to a Camera Raw 101 video I did a couple weeks ago on the NatMember website, and a lot of people really liked the video, so they asked to do a Camera Raw 102. So you can call this whatever you want, the follow-up to 101, Camera Raw 102, Camera Raw 101 the sequel. There's a lot of different names we can give to it, but just call it the follow-up. And in the first video, we took a look at this Adjust tab, and there's a lot of important settings in there. So if you didn't get to watch that video, just go on to the NatMember archives, and you can do a search on Camera Raw 101. Just do a search on Camera Raw, and the video should pop up in there for you. Now this time, we're going to take a look at 3 tabs. Yep. Not just 1, not 2, but 3 tabs here in Camera Raw, and it's going to actually go kind of quick because the first one goes really fast. And here's the thing about the Detail tab. Let's zoom in here on the trees here. Sharpness controls, there's no trick to it. It controls exactly what you think it controls, sharpness. This is 0, this is 100. So you can see the difference here. Again, 0, 100. So it sharpens your photo. Here's what I usually do with sharpness. I leave it at whatever Camera Raw gave me, the defaults, because I prefer to sharpen my photos inside of Photoshop. A lot of pro photographers do it that way because you get a lot more control inside of Photoshop. So I tend to just leave sharpness where it was. Now, luminance smoothing and color noise reduction. Luminance smoothing deals with grayscale noise, and color noise reduction, obviously, it deals with color noise. And they both tend to be produced when you're shooting at a high ISO speed. So maybe a lot of times low light photography, you'll run into that noise situation where you have a lot of noise in your photos, and this is where you would come to fix it. But again, there's settings and there's filters inside of Photoshop that can fix noise for you, and you get a lot more control that way. So I tend to just leave this tab as is. I don't really come in here and mess with it too much. Now, the Lens tab, there's 2 things you can fix inside here. One's called the chromatic aberration, and the other one is vignetting. Let's start with the first one here. I'm going to cancel out. Let's go jump over into Bridge and open up another photo. And let me move the window into place here. And let's find an area that's got some problems that hopefully I can show you where this chromatic aberration comes into play. And it's really hard to see, and it's going to be even harder to see because of video degradation as you're watching it. But chromatic aberration is kind of fringing along dark contrasty edges. A lot of times it happens as a result of a low quality lens, and it'll be some type of a color fringing, and I can start to see it here. There's a little bit of red fringing right along the windows here. You'll see it along where the blue meets the yellow here. Now, what I'm going to do is let's go under lens. I'm going to increase it. I'm going to make it worse just so you can see it more. See that? See, it's starting to pop out, that red fringing along there. That I've accentuated it here, and it's really not that bad. But what you want to do is, if whatever color it is, you want to go in the opposite direction. So if you see red, you want to start to go towards cyan, and it'll start to remove that fringing for you. So again, it's so small, and it's going to be hard to see because QuickTime Movie quality gets degraded, but it's there and I can see it, and if you look close on some of your photos, you might find it too. That's where you come to fix it. Now, vignetting is an effect where the edges get darker. It's the darkening of the edges, and it happens a lot of time with wide-angle lenses. And again, there's a lot of technical reasons behind it, but you'll know it when it happens. You'll see your edges start to get darkened, and it's actually become kind of a popular effect to add vignetting to photos. So you could see if we increase the amount here, see what's happening? See how these edges are getting darker? Well, if you shoot with a wide-angle lens, you might have a photo that starts out that way. You can come in here and start dropping the amount down to start trying to remove that vignetting. And now we'll move over to curve, and let me cancel out of here. I liked the photo I had before better. So let's take a look at curve, and the curve tab is a lot like curves are inside of Photoshop. So let's get over to curves here, and you can see it starts out with it's called the tone curve, and it starts out with medium contrast. But you've got a couple of options here. We've got linear, which is just the straight curve, and that's what you start out with in Photoshop. Then you've got your medium contrast, and that's just a default curve that Camera Raw gives you, and it kind of just boosts the contrast a little bit in your photo. It does it by itself. You can see it adjusts the curve a little bit here. And then we've got strong contrast, and that kind of is strong contrast, so it kind of boosts the contrast more than medium does. And then finally we've got a custom setting. So if you don't like either one of these, you can start out with linear, and then what you'd want to do is go up here and let's select our eyedropper and come up here, and you can see right now you're not seeing anything happen on the curve as I'm moving the eyedropper around, but if I hold down my control or my command key, see the little points start to hop around on that curve there. See that little circle? You kind of, here we go. See that little circle that just appeared there? So if you hold down your control key on a PC or command on the Mac, you'll start to see that point hop around. So I'm going to kind of decide I want to boost the contrast of this water a little bit. So I'll hold down control or command, and then I'll click, and it's going to place a point for me. Now let's do the same thing. We've got our mid-tones over here, so I'll kind of position it on these trees and click. And then as we look around the photo, maybe we'll come down here in the water. That'll be the darker areas, and again I'll click. So now I've got 3 points, and what I'm going to do is just kind of bring one down, maybe bring one up a little bit, almost kind of creating a little bit of an S curve here, okay? And you can see that we start to get a little bit of, we're kind of increasing the contrast a little bit. What's nice about this curve too is you see your histogram behind it. So I wish Photoshop had that, but it doesn't yet. We can always hope that one day we get it. But so right there, we've kind of boosted our contrast just by moving the eyedropper over the image and control or command clicking on a point to kind of set a point for it. Now we can see that's custom. We can jump back to linear. You can see it did indeed, it made a difference. So that's linear. So kind of a little bit more washed out, and our custom setting kind of had a little bit more contrast into it. So those are the 3 tabs: detail, lens, and curve. And the videos have been pretty popular. So look out for a Camera Raw 103 or part 3 or whatever, and we'll take a look at calibrate. We still have some tools up here on the top left that we need to take a look at, and then there's all the tools, the workflow options at the bottom that we need to take a look at too still. So we'll look at those in another video later. Thanks, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you again next time.